Hello, and welcome to HPE Discover Barcelona 2025. I'm Kevin Hutchins, Senior Vice President of Strategy and Business Development at HPE Networking. With that, I'd like to introduce our panelists. Joining me here are Anthony Varacalli, Vice President of Global OEM Sales at NVIDIA, A. Natarajan, General Manager of Routing Infrastructure Solutions with HPE Networking, and Scott Snedden, who leads networking sales for NVIDIA. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
So let me start with you, Anthony. What I'd like you to maybe walk us through is we have this expanded partnership now between NVIDIA and HPE. And can you tell the people listening in, what is it really all about?
Yeah, first of all, again, thank you for having us here. We really appreciate participation at Discover. I think this is about my 20th Discover, which is fantastic. The partnership is a long-standing partnership. I mean, we've been innovating with HP for many, many years. We've built some of the largest systems on the planet with HP in the HPC space, even in the AI factory space. If you listen to the keynote today in Antonio's discussion, he talked about all the different areas we're working with HP. So storage, we've got work going on there. Private cloud AI, which was built on a reference architecture, but co-engineered NVIDIA and HPE. Even software, we work on software together, and we treat HPE as a developer, not just an OEM hardware partner, but also a software company. So now the expansion with Juniper brings in a whole new realm. When you look at the AI factories and the work we're doing, we are deploying, like I said, some of the largest AI factories in the world with HPE. Those infrastructures are very well defined. Just like PCAI was a reference architecture, the core of our strategy for large AI factories is one NVLink between the GPUs, Spectrum-X inside or scale out within the data center. And then between data centers, if you want one big logical homogeneous data center, we use Spectrum-X GS. What Juniper brings is all the stuff we've been missing, right? So the long haul capabilities that are not part of NVIDIA's portfolio or weren't HPE's previously, and the user access, right? Secure user access within those applications, so the users can get to AI workloads inside those AI factories. So we're really excited about the collaboration that's going to come, and we're looking forward to the partnership.
So I think what you're saying is that this is really a complementary solution that we're bringing to bear. But what problems do you feel like this solves that, with just the AI factory solution that was there before we announced what we announced today, were unsolved?
Well, again, we were limited to what we could take care of in the space we had. So we could build, when you're building out AI factories, you may run into all kinds of problems. Stuff like space, power, cooling. So you may expand outside that data center. And that's why we invented Spectrum-X GS, because we wanted that AI performance to be maximized, and it's tried and tested. What, again, the Juniper brings to the relationship is that expanded capability, that bringing data into that factory, taking data out, all the stuff that really wasn't in the portfolio before for HPE. So HPE has a much more cohesive strategy and can go solve customer problems. And, it's always about time to value. You're spending, whether you're spending $1 million on a smaller AI factory or $100 million or $1 billion, there's all sorts of problems, but it's all about time to money and time to results. So Juniper is bringing that last connection part that wasn't there before.
Well, and I think when we announced this, we talked about now we're bringing the concept of AI factories into a more production-ready concept of AI factory grids.
Right.
And the idea that, you may, as you said, because of constraints in space and power, you may not be able to have all of your compute resources concurrent with each other in one location. So I think that factory grid concept really resonates with what you described. But from the HPE Juniper perspective, obviously that brings a new set of problems in terms of, what scaling across looks like. And there's, as Anthony was mentioning, there's scaling across over shorter distances, which has already been solved well with Spectrum-X GS. But now as we start to think about in the AI factory grid model, what does scale across actually look like? What's your view on that?
Yeah, So it's pretty interesting because if you really look at traditionally when you want to scale, you just look at scaling up a system, building servers that are more compute intensive and all that stuff. And then you go about carrying more of these servers together, which they do really, really well with GPUs and servers that you can actually interconnect with them. But with the constraints that Anthony mentioned, whether it's power, cooling, and everything else, you really have to think the third dimension of scaling across. And what it actually means is these AI factories that you build with connecting servers and within buildings or even within a certain smaller geo now need to be connected to the bigger grid that we talked about, where you have to scale across. And this is very interesting because now when you take this data or this compute workload across all of these geographically long distances, there are some challenges in terms of how you build those systems, how you buffer them, and provide the same level of SA that is needed to make the GPUs as effective and not wait on the network. That is important. The second aspect, which Anthony alluded to, is how you take the data that is actually coming in from the edge, where the users have the data and the rich data that needs to come back into the AI engine and the AI factories for inferencing and also for training purposes. How do you backhaul that from the edge, which is going to be anywhere in the world? So these are interesting problems for us to solve. And these problems can only be solved by specialized networking gear that can carry long-haul traffic and also onboard multi-tenancy when data comes in. So that is exciting for us.
I think that's great. Scott, maybe turning to you now, how do you think about this partnership and this additional, complementary set of capabilities that we're bringing to bear fitting into NVIDIA's broader strategy for AI networking?
NVIDIA is very much a networking player, but only within that AI factory. I mean, we don't focus on any of these long-haul routing things at all. Any of the edge security or encrypting the user traffic in. As we look at these sovereign AI use cases that we've been talking about in this new test lab we've opened here in France. We're not in France. The sovereign AI challenge is very much largely dictated by power availability in a location. And so, if I'm an existing company or a government that has a very large data center of their own with a whole bunch of collection of data, and now I want to train a model on that data, it may not be feasible to put a big GPU cluster in that same data center where the data is located. I may need to deploy that elsewhere where power is available. But then how do I connect that data to that AI cluster? And if I'm doing RAG on inferencing, right, I need real-time, very low latency access to that. And so the things that we're doing to build and extend GPU clusters at very high scale and very high speed maybe don't cover the use case of data coming in. Certainly don't cover the use case of connecting to public cloud where data might live also,
right,
and necessarily encrypting that over shared infrastructure. So, we've got this really powerful set of solutions to create a very large scale AI factory that can span some distance, but there is the really strong need to bring things in and out, and the relationship's very complementary.
And the out part also includes like getting users, getting devices, getting agents to that output, which is equally important in production.
If I think of a factory that's building goods, I've got to bring raw materials in and I've got to deliver the produced product out. Right. And I'm going to move a lot of materials inside the factory while I build it. And I might have multiple buildings as part of that factory, and I might have a specialized little railroad between those two buildings. But that's just moving those materials around while I build it. In an AI factory, my output is tokens. I've got to take those tokens somewhere. And so, yeah, the input is really key. The output is also very, very important.
That's great. So maybe coming back to you then, so that really gives a good articulation of how this fits into NVIDIA's strategy. Maybe the same question back to you now on how do we view this fitting into the HPE strategy?
Oh yeah. This is really exciting for us. We do this long haul really well. We've been doing this for over 20 plus years. We built our own custom silicon to do this, and we understand the challenges of moving data long haul. It requires buffering, it requires resiliency, it requires error corrections, and the ability because for us to move data around in the most efficient and the most optimal way. If you take our PTX system, which can interconnect long distances that we were talking about, what we do there is the ability for us to give large pipes like 800 gig or 1.6T tomorrow or 3.2T, and not only have these pipes, but with these AI factories and these AI grids, they actually impose a huge demand in terms of making sure that the latency is met and also the bandwidth is full always and it's fully utilized so that GPUs are not waiting for things, are waiting for data, and we are wasting cycles. We have some of the best ingredients in our silicon in terms of load balancing, in terms of pushing data through long distances in the best way. And we've been used by every hyperscaler in this aspect. And this complements everything that we do with NVIDIA, so that is exciting. Now, the second half of it is what we do on the edge, where the users come with rich data, rich content, and they need multi-tenancy because it's in the edge. They have different customers, and then there are policies, and Scott alluded to security of that customer data and user data that needs to come in. There again, we have our own custom silicon, which is the Trio, which powers our MX, and that is the greatest edge on-ramp that we can actually use. And it is proven technology because it's used, again, by every hyperscaler today, where they want to onboard their customers into their data centers or clouds or any of those things. They use the MX, and it gives all the feature functionality and the performance and the inline security with our MX portfolio, whether it's the MX 301, 304, or even the MX 10K. Likewise, there are two aspects to it, Kevin. Both the DCI, which is our PTX portfolio with Express, and the edge on-ramp gives us a great opportunity to stitch together this largest AI grid that we are talking about and enabling ubiquitous AI all over.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you guys walking us through this. Just in closing, I think the real summary here is that we have the best AI factory solution in the market today, with NVIDIA bringing intelligent, low latency AI fabric with Spectrum-X and Connect X8. That really creates that, sort of that factory footprint that gives you the foundation for high performance throughput that's necessary for all AI workloads. Now we're complementing that, as Scott, I think your analogy was great, where now we have the ability to really put these factories into production with the realities of what the use cases are actually going to look like. And you mentioned this as well, Anthony. It's really about dealing with the complexities of deploying these things in the real world and bringing them into production, delivering on the continuous factory inputs that are needed to keep it running, the factory outputs to make it productive, and to do that both efficiently and at the lowest cost available. And I think, then what you said is we're doing that with some innovation that really has tremendous value here. I think what we've essentially summarized it as 3 custom silicon families, 2 industry leaders, and 1 integrated solution. And so I don't think there's any better way to summarize it than that. And so with that, I'd say thank you guys. And we really value the partnership with NVIDIA, and we look forward to the next phase of our innovation together.